Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is GNR or Harrison, and today we are going to be talking about loot boxes and why they are kind of ruining my favorite games. I've been promising you guys this video for about a week now. I did a poll on my Twitter account, and a fair amount of you guys wanted to see a video like this. So I am more than happy to make a video like this, especially with all the Star Wars Battlefront II controversy going around us, and it's just definitely a good discussion to have. In the background, you guys will be seeing some Call of Duty World War II multiplayer gameplay where I pop off. It's really good. I'm really enjoying that game right now. But let's jump right into the video. So my first personal experience with loot boxes had to do with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Many Call of Duty fans know, including myself, that Sledgehammer Games introduced the loot box system into the Call of Duty franchise with Advanced Warfare. I was not a huge fan of the system. I did like how they had random, a player would get random loot boxes depending on how much time they played. So say if a person played for 10 hours while another person played for 2 hours, that person that played 10 hours get more loot boxes because they played more, which is totally fine. And then they introduced variants into the loot boxes, and I was not a fan of that at all. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth every time I talk about it or think about it. And I'm just not really a fan of variants at all whatsoever. And so that was my first personal experience. I know that games like CSGO had or have loot boxes in them, and the whole thing with the CSGO gambling fiasco. But the thing is that from what I've heard and read, CSGO tends to give out loot boxes very generously, which is good for players that are that play the game a fair amount. And if you fast forward to today, every single Call of Duty and a fair amount of video games in today's age have loot boxes in their games as a main feature, and it tends to piss players off. Just to name a few games, there's Call of Duty World War II, Overwatch, Assassin's Creed Origins, Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and even single-player games are having microtransactions, loot boxes, which I never really imagined, because I never thought single-player games would have loot boxes or feel the need to have them. But I mean, I guess they made their way in there somehow. And so, with all of this being said, there are some companies that make certain video games where the loot box system is right and where it is wrong. First right example being Infinite Warfare / Modern Warfare Remastered. I really do think that Infinity Ward and Raven Software did a great job of revamping the whole loot box / microtransaction system. So before, in Advanced Warfare and a couple other Call of Duties besides Black Ops 3, the only way you could get loot boxes was through buying them and then earning them in game randomly. But with Black Ops 3, you could use crypto keys to buy those loot boxes while also using real money. The only thing though is that the crypto keys came at a very slow rate, so much so that we asked for a double like crypto keys weekend a couple times when we got it. And sometimes even when you'd open up, like at the rate that you were earning keys and opening up loot boxes, you just weren't going to get those guns. And if you did, you were very lucky. So just buying those loot boxes 100, 200 at a time were way more beneficial. But for someone who doesn't want to spend like $50 to $100 on 100 to 200 loot boxes, I'm not going to get those guns. So what Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered did was they introduced an in-game currency, essentially where if you save up enough in-game currency, I think it was called like parts or something like that, you can actually unlock those guns by saving up those parts. And the parts came at a reasonable amount, at least in Infinite Warfare. Modern Warfare Remastered, they didn't really come unless they were in loot boxes, which was kind of sketch. But I know Infinite Warfare did a great job with being able to unlock those guns in loot boxes instead of just wasting your money on loot boxes to get those guns. The second right example being Overwatch. In Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered, they did have guns and loot boxes, which I'm not a fan of. I would still prefer them not to have that, but in Overwatch, it's cosmetic only. And so with cosmetic only items, it doesn't hurt the game at all. It doesn't hurt any of the game mechanics. It's just one of those things where if you see a person with a costume, you're like, with a certain like Halloween costume, you look over at them and you're like, oh man, I want that Halloween costume. So you go out, you buy loot boxes, or you play more and you get more loot boxes just by grinding out and playing. And from what I've heard, because I don't really play Overwatch too much, they tend to give out loot boxes pretty generously. And so I find that really cool that they're not only one cosmetic only, but also that they give them out pretty generously. And now we're going to move into the two wrong examples. The first wrong example being Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Now I really wanted Shadow of War to not be tainted with anything because I loved Shadow of Mordor. It was one of my favorite single player games at the time. But Shadow of War really was tainted with a lot of things. If you guys aren't familiar with the Nemesis system in the game, essentially what you do in the game is there are orcs all scattered throughout the lands in the game. What you have to do is you have to recruit those orcs into your army by dominating them, and then you go around, you know, the land in Shadow of War, and you take over fortresses with your army and stuff like that, and you just keep on recruiting orcs. And that's in game. You can do that in game. But here's the thing with the loot boxes is that you can like throw up 50 bucks for the loot boxes, and you can get those same orcs that you could in game by grinding, by just throwing up 50 bucks and getting them in a loot box. That is absolutely absurd. It's quite literally pay to win. And not only is that bad, but there's also an in-game currency called Mirian. And with that in-game currency is like this gold currency. And so with loot boxes in the game, there's white chests, gold chests, and blue chests, I believe, if I can remember correctly. And you can only buy the white chest with the in-game currency. You can't even touch the gold or the blue chests with the in-game currency. You have to buy gold with real money in order to get those high-tier loot boxes. So in-game, with the in-game currency, you can only buy the lowest tier loot box, which is so dumb. And it just sucks so much because I really wanted this game to be a very good single player experience. And the thing is with the loot box system is that it doesn't really hurt the game a ton, but it doesn't help the game at all. And so really it's only giving it a really solid negative. Now moving on to a more recent wrong example is Star Wars Battlefront II. So if you guys have not heard about the controversy happening with Star Wars Battlefront II, let me catch you up to speed. Essentially, in the game, there are heroes that you can play as, and there are star cards that you can give yourself, I think up to 3, and these star cards kind of enhance your abilities as a player. So they're not just like, you know, these star cards essentially will give stuff like, you know, you can get 10% more XP, you get another grenade, like stuff like that. So essentially what players found out was that these heroes that we were able to play as in the first game without unlocking them, without paying for them or anything, were locked. So Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and many other heroes were just locked. And the only way to get them was to either A, spend real money, or B, grind out in-game currency and buy them. And you'd think, okay, well, an in-game currency, you know, you should probably be able to get a lot of that, and you should be able to get them pretty easily, right? That's completely wrong. They cost 60,000 credits, which I think equals out to 40 hours, if I'm remembering correctly. 40 hours of gameplay in order to unlock one character. And so this was a couple days ago. With the news now, they've lowered it down to 15,000 credits to unlock each hero, and I think they've actually, I don't know if they've lowered like how much credits you get after each game. They're still looking into it, I think. But the fact that they've lowered them by 75% is absolutely insane, just from the community like feedback and backlash. And so what I've heard now is that it's not as bad as what people are saying. Like, you can unlock heroes and star cards pretty quickly, but I'll need to figure out myself when the game comes out Friday because I don't have EA access. But this whole controversy literally outlines how loot boxes are tainting video games so badly. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 has I think been one of the worst, one of the worst examples yet. So after talking about both my right and wrong examples, we're going to jump now into the solutions. I think the only way to really fix this issue, honest to God, is by doing the Overwatch method. Now, if none of you guys know what I talked about Overwatch earlier in the video, but what they do is cosmetic only. It doesn't affect the game. If people want more costumes, sure, go ahead. Throw $30 on a costume, see if you get it. But that's not hurting me as a player. It's not hurting my experience as a player. I'll see that costume and be like, dude, that costume is dope. Like, I kind of want that. But I'm not going to spend money on it, and it doesn't affect me at all whatsoever. If these companies don't adopt a method like this, like the Overwatch method, what they're going to do, if they haven't already, is have too much ego in the boardroom and too little emphasis on the end user / customer. And this is exactly what led to the death of companies like Blockbuster, H.H. Gregg, and Toys R Us. And the thing is that we've already kind of seen this with Star Wars Battlefront 2 and EA. EA has seriously been pushing their players and fans in terms of microtransactions to see how far they can push them. And with Star Wars Battlefront 2, they pushed them a little too far. And now there's all this community backlash and feedback, and it's most definitely going to hurt their player base and sales, like by a fair amount, in my opinion. Honestly, at this point, it's worth to even ask the question why loot boxes are even in games. Like, for example, there was Call of Duty World War II just came out, okay? Literally 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, just came out. In the first weekend, they made million. Let me repeat that for you guys. They made in 3 days $500 million, which is insane. And this was with no microtransactions at all. This was just by the base game, the $60 version, and then the versions after that. That is how they made this money. Which begs the question, why in the world, if you're making $500 million on the base game, why do we need microtransactions at all? It's $500 million. It's absolutely, it blows my mind sometimes. It really does. It really blows my mind. At the end of the day, I understand that these companies are companies, and in order to survive, they need to make money. The thing, though, is that their main source of money comes from us, the players, the fan base. And what happens when the majority of the players and fan base stops buying your games because they're too pissed off with microtransactions and loot boxes? That company's going to fade out. They're going to die, and we're not going to see them again. And with all of that being said, it'll be really interesting to see what the count of players is after a month or two of Star Wars Battlefront 2 being out. It'll be really, really interesting. I guarantee you, in December, and when it releases, it'll be up here. But a month or two after December, January or February, it'll be down here. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. It's really sad, honestly. It makes me really sad. Guys, that's going to be it for the end of the video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. If you guys do want to see more content from myself, make sure to subscribe to me on this channel, and make sure to go follow me on Twitch. I really, really enjoyed making this video. If you guys do want to see more videos like this, let me know. I can talk about a ton of more stuff, like EA closing down companies, and a ton of stuff like that. Just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to do so, because I love talking about that stuff. But guys, that's going to be it. I will see all of you in another video. I love your faces. Peace.